Hi everyone, I'm Matthew. I am the creator of this channel, Watch Me If You Can. Today's project is this vintage Seiko. It's interesting, funky, and maybe not for everyone's taste. If you're looking at so many watches, maybe you get desensitized to the usual looking thing, and maybe you start looking at watches that you shouldn't. I don't know, it caught my eye. You can let me know what you think of this watch. This is an occasional runner. It's a 6106-8599. There is an issue with the stem. I suspect that's a gasket, and as you can see here, the gasket is bloated and hardened, so it makes it hard to set. It actually won't return to the correct position when you press it in. So, yep, a new gasket on there, and it should behave pretty normally. Just checking the bearings here, and now we're ticking again. We'll tick some, but not consistently. I guess we'll go ahead and get in here, and we'll take the automatic works off first. This screw is so loose, it feels like someone's been in here. This one's a little tighter. Just gently lift. Be careful not to slip here. We'll let the power down next. It's also important not to slip here because you can damage things. Case ring off. Flip this over and see if we can lift it off pretty easily. Align our hands so we can take those off. We use this little sheet of plastic and this cannon pinion removal tool to lift the hands off. And this is a bit of broken dial spacer ring. Hopefully the rest is okay. Loosen our dial feet, and we'll see just how bad it is. Well, it's a small section. I think we can get away with that. We'll worry about that later. Get our dial and hands tucked away safely. Pry this little C-clip off to get the day and date wheel off. Note that that's beveled on one edge. The bevel goes face down so that you can get a tool up underneath it to lift it up. If you put it the wrong way around, it'll make it much harder to get that clip off. Actually, while I'm disassembling, I can go ahead and show you. See the sort of the star-shaped teeth? They engage with this spring here. That little knob on the spring slots in there, and that's what centers the day and the day and date window. We'll take a look at the date corrector here pretty soon. Remove these screws for the plate that goes over the, essentially holds the date wheel down. There are 4. Nudge our date wheel off, and that's the corrector for the date wheel. This kind of, I think it looks, it reminds me of Bart Simpson for some reason. I call it the Bart Simpson spring. See if we can pull that out of there. And the screw for our wheel that pushes the date over. Note that that's shouldered, so it's very specific to that little date lever wheel. And that part is metal. A couple of parts here. One is plastic, and note it has a knob on the top and 2 knobs underneath. It's our hour wheel. The little intermediate wheel it's a double wheel, and this is for our quick set. Go ahead and get our balance off. Gently lift this up just enough to separate it. Always try to lower these so that the pivot goes into the jewel. Off comes the ratchet wheel. Now I'll go for these 3 screws that hold the this bridge on, and it will reveal something I don't think I've mentioned. This is a hacking movement, and what that just means that the time stops when you pull the crown out to the setting position, and then you'll be able to see the little lever that actually makes the hacking possible. It's connected to the sliding pinion there, and it just butts up against that wheel when you pull it. Go ahead and remove the click spring here. I'm guessing you can probably hear some sounds of dinner being prepared in the background. I'll probably have to edit quite a bit of this out. And our barrel, where the mainspring is stored. Pull our hack out. So the cannon pinion tool makes a return. And now we'll proceed getting these wheels out. We'll loosen these two screws that hold down the pallet fork bridge. Sometimes a lot of watchmakers will just use one screw with kind of a post on the other side. This is coming up pretty easily. Sometimes you have to work that loose. And there's our pallet fork. You can see the jewels on there. This little cock holds down the center wheel. But I'm going to remove the escape wheel first. And there's our last wheel, the center wheel. Now, this is a little bridge, setting works bridge, but take a look. I'm going to show you. There's a difference between these two screws. Notice one's kind of beveled, and you can probably figure out where that goes. And they're also different widths, but yeah, it pays to pay attention to the screws. Just checking for any kind of chamfer on this wheel here. You want to make sure you get the right side oriented correctly when you reassemble. On this big spring, I like to loosen it part way. Work this big guy loose. Yeah. Then come back and finish it off with the rest of the way. Now we'll go ahead and get our setting lever bridge, I guess. It's got the little spring that engages the setting lever. Also helps hold some bits in place, like the yoke. Here we go. That's our yoke, which also is a spring built in. Pull our stem out up. The sliding clutch pinion made a break for it. And there's the setting lever. Just inspecting the jewels here before we do cleaning. We'll do some pre-cleaning. I'm going to soak this in some isopropyl alcohol. Kind of loosen anything up that might be in there. Kind of work it with a little bit of pegwood once it's moist a little bit. So this watch isn't too dirty, but we want it to be as best as we can make it. Work off some loose bits I see here back in the jar. Just looking for the little divot here for where to pry the bezel off. Be careful, I don't want to damage it. Is it loose? Yep. Well, I guess it's just enough to hold that on there. Sometimes these are a real pain. Gonna have to replace this crystal. It's a big crack. Okay, I've got most of our movement parts pre-cleaned. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and get all these parts into the baskets and get it started. And then I'll pivot to the mainspring barrel and the automatic works separately. Pop the barrel cover off. Note the orientation of the spring. Oops. That could have gone much worse. The inside of the barrel is usually always really dirty. I noticed the hairspring is not perfect, but I think it's close enough to where I'm worried I'll do more damage trying to fix it. So we're just going to kind of see how it performs. So the main plate has been cleaned and dried. I've got the balance on here to secure it while we clean it. And some isopropyl alcohol for 2 minutes or less. Some very gentle swirls. And we'll clean the palette fork as well. Again, less than 2 minutes. Just putting some Mobius 8217 braking grease on the sides of the barrel to help give the mainspring some resistance so that it'll coil up in there. So get that the right orientation, and we'll wind this in by hand. Maneuver this arbor in place. And you can test to make sure it's engaging by kind of just gripping a little bit and twisting the barrel around a little bit. Some D5 on top of the spring, the bottom of the barrel, a little bit on top of the arbor sometimes, just depends. You can also do it after you get the cap on, if you can just kind of get it down in that groove. Press the cap on. Just gonna make sure this is on evenly. Pretty good. Checking for excessive play. We're good here. Now see if we can get this old hard gasket off the stem. That's kind of fulfilling. A little heavier grease on our sliding clutch pinion, kind of on the perpendicular sides rather than on the flat grooven side. Well, same grease on the tips and sides of the stem. I'm going to go ahead and get this set in here. Hopefully get in here without making a mess. Now we'll be ready for our yoke. First some D5 where the yoke goes. I'm going to set this so the yoke will slide in a little more easily. Just I think. Okay, well. This is that big spring that's for the quick set. Little grease here where there's some metal contact for the setting lever. Just trying to get that post that's on the opposite side of the setting lever situated into the stem. There we go. Touch of grease here on the setting lever spring. Again, we'll try and get this in here without making too much of a mess. Keep the grease where it should be and away from where it shouldn't. Get our 2 screws in. Just trying to figure out what the easiest spot for that to be to get this spring in here. So much pressure. Wow. Okay. I don't recall having broken one, but it feels like I'm going to every time. A little bit of grease here at the end of the sliding clutch pinion. Just checking the movement here to see, make sure the metal is covered with grease. I'm sorry, I'm not very conversational. I'm suffering pretty heavily from allergies. Some 90-10 for the center wheel jewel. Some 90-10 for this jewel. Which I never really had any allergy problems until the last year or two. But my sinus pressure is really mind-numbing. Checking for free play in the wheel here. Our escape wheel. Try and get this guy in a pivot. Sometimes this gets it right in there. But as far as allergies go, even more than the physical discomfort is this. It's that feeling of just brain fog. All right, we'll get our seconds wheel in. And you can either oil it on the jewel like I did or on the shoulder of the shaft. All right, let's get the barrel in. I could have put the barrel in earlier. Slide it in there. That'll work. Okay, can anyone tell me what I forgot? Hint. Look at the left side of the screen. Yeah, we got to get the hack in first. So I think it goes this way. It needs to engage with the sliding clutch pinion and that groove there. Now we can get these guys in here. Be careful because now there's oil on that shaft. I don't want to get it, touch anything else with it. Do our best to get this bridge even close. That's not close. Closer. Work this. Let's pivot a little more. Is that it? That's it. I'm not going to really cinch these down until I test it one last time because I don't want to damage the pivots. Be extra careful. Now we can tighten them down. Some D5 for this metal post and this post. Now my can pinion isn't set, it's just there as a reminder. So and D5 for the cannon pinion. I'm going to put a little D5 on that rail where the wheel rides. Okay. That's our minute wheel. Get this little intermediate wheel in here. Now for this little setting bridge. Remember, this is the one that has the two different size screws or shaped screws. Little grease for our click spring. For some reason, I always find these a little trickier than they should be. This one behaved all right. Get our ratchet wheel set. So I'm going to pull back the click spring and try and rotate the ratchet wheel so that it catches the arbor. Time for the pallet fork. See if we can get this little guy into the pivot. Nope. Try again. See if we can get this bridge in here without bumping it out of place. Looks okay. Just going to tighten this part way and check it again. Looks okay. Okay, next we have to oil the escapement right in this area. But we're going to do it from the dial side, and you can look down to that hole and see the pallet stone that I have to get the grease onto. And I'm not using very much. I'm just trying to graze the front part of that pallet stone. Need to put a little more wind in here. And we'll kick this back and forth to rotate the escape wheel a few teeth. And we'll reapply some lubrication to the face of that pallet stone again. And repeat. And we do this 2 or 3 more times until we hit all the teeth on the wheel. Get our impulse stone aligned and get our balance in. Struggling a little bit with the pivot today. See if we can help it. Sometimes it's easier to start over, but let's see if we can salvage the situation. Looks like it wants to. Now, I have done this and didn't realize I had the stem pulled, which would activate the hack, but I know that that's not the case. There we go. Oh, man. I was sweating that one a little bit. And some 90-10 for these jewels. I tend to do 90-10 in the jewels, and I tend to do D5 and metal to metal pivots. We'll get to the shock setting jewels for the balance. And I'm rotating this, keeping at least part of the tweezers in the center of the spring to keep it from flying away. Rodicos, very useful here. Cleaning this in some isopropyl alcohol. We'll dry it and we'll oil it. Just trying to get this to dry out on some watchmaker's paper. Tiny little droplet of oil. On a bubble of oil, we want to drop this over it, keeping the bubble intact. Getting things on are always harder than getting them off. And there are a variety of ways you can do this, but it's important that you keep something in the center of the spring to keep it from pinging off. Now we can get to the one on the other side. A little grubby. And it's funny, sometimes I can get these on in less than a minute, and sometimes it takes about 15 minutes. But the key is to be patient, because if you're not, you'll make a mistake. Okay. Now for the calendar works, a little touch of D5 here. And some D5 here, and some D5 here. This is part of our date wheel driving system. And this is where that plastic piece goes with the two nubs down. To slot each of those nubs into one of those spaces in that wheel there. Slide our arrow wheel in place. This is that little lever that pushes the date wheel over. And this is the Bart Simpson spring. Don't judge me. Bit of grease here. There's some metal to metal contact. Just kind of checking that to make sure I got it right. Looks like this could use a little grease too. And a little bit here. And look at this little arm here for the quick set for the day. There. So we need to get our date disc aligned with the Bart Simpson spring into that groove, or one of those grooves between the teeth there. Now we can get our cover. Just a quick test. And this is that little spring that has to slide in between the teeth of the day disc. Manipulate that spring into place, and the day disc will lay flat once you get that spring oriented correctly. All right, remember, bevel side down. There's our bevel. So we'll put that down. Just press it in place with these tweezers. Is there a plastic tip? You seem to be working fine. Some peckerwood here to clean up this case. Clean up the crown tube, stem tube. I'd say this gasket is beyond serviceability. Okay, I'm going to let that watch run a little bit while we service the automatic works. This rotor has some damage. It's bent and it's been glued. Everything else looks okay. So we'll disassemble this and we'll get it cleaned and ready to reassemble. So orienting this in my head. It's our paw lever. We are cleaned and ready to reassemble. Just a little 90-10 here for that jewel area where the paw lever goes. Trying to get these arms of the lever outside of this wheel. They have to be engaged on both sides. They have little hooks on the ends of those arms. I'm struggling to get these screws in, so this is my attempt to make this work tonight. It's 90-10 on these friction points on the automatic works and on the jewels. Okay, well, someone had glued this before, so I'll give it a go this time. I would rather repivot it, but don't really see a way that I can do it. Just a little dab. I'm gonna hold this in place for a few seconds. I'll be upset if this glues my tweezers. We'll put that away and let that cure. And get our automatic bridge on. See if this dial spacer will work okay without that little chunk. Could slide that little piece into the gap and make it work anyway. Line up the dial. Tighten up these dial feet screws. Seiko sandwich. Still need to remember to put a gasket on this stem. All right, we'll see if this bodge job of a fix works for this rotor. I do have a replacement rotor, a spare one, if needed. Okay, we turn the watch until the date flips so we know that's midnight, so we can set our hour hand at this point. Now we get our hand soft set and aligned. Some debris here. Just checking alignment, looks good. Time for our seconds hand. Just gotta get that post over the pivot here. Gentle press. And forgot the I forgot the hack was engaged, so I thought we might have had a problem, but the problem was me. All right, just a hint of what it might look like. This crystal is cracked and needs to be replaced, but I need to order a new one. But in the meantime, if you squint your eyes, this can give you an idea of the potential. This is a flared 19mm strap I have. So I've had the watch running for a couple days, and take a look at this. About every 5 seconds, it stutters. So we're gonna have to open this back up and see what's going on. Well, I took the movement apart and looked at things pretty closely, and I think I found the issue. Do you see it? Look at the tooth on the escape wheel here above the tweezers. The tip is either broken or damaged, but it is definitely not the same shape as the others. I also found another issue. This was not a happy find. The bushing of the barrel bridge is so worn that the watch can't even unwind fully. So that's going to need to be addressed. Yeah, I should have discovered that earlier. Luckily, I do have some spare parts. We got something in the mail today. Wrist check, Seiko 6139, 6012. Okay, so I spared you the video of replacing the escape wheel and that reassembly. I also went ahead and replaced the rotor. I just wasn't really happy with that glue repair on the old one. Seiko sandwich. We'll get this stored away, and we'll pry off the bezel to get this old crystal out again. So the new one is very, very slightly larger, but I think we'll make it work. Oh, that was a lot of force. Okay. Well, we didn't break it. That's good news. Just checking to make sure that that's fully seated. So I get this divot aligned back where I want it. Feels all the way. Just didn't take very much pressure. Seiko sandwich. I've got a replacement gasket on the stem now. And a new gasket for the case back. All right, after regulation, we've got our beat error pretty much down to 0 here, and our rate is looking pretty good. The amplitude would be higher if we had used a brand new mainspring, but it might go up after the lubrication spreads a little bit. I've dug this old non-Seiko bracelet out of my parts box, and I think it suits the watch pretty well. What do you think? I definitely prefer it over the strap that I showed a little earlier. You know, even though this isn't a pristine example, you know, the case definitely has some dings, and the minute track is definitely degrading. I think it's still a really cool watch. It's not for everybody. It's kind of flashy for what I'm used to, but you let me know what you think. Is this a watch you would wear? This video has gone on long enough. I appreciate you coming along, and I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, take care.